friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are back for round 2 of my Motley Crew TBR game, where we are going to figure out what my TBR is going to look like for the month of July. Now, if this is your first time hearing about my TBR game, check out the video that I will clip up here or down in the description box below to go watch the first version of this game that I played last month, where I explain the rules in detail. But in brief, let me walk you through how this game works. I wanted to create a TBR game that gave me a lot of flexibility and options so that I never felt like I was rigidly backed into a corner with my monthly TBRs. And so I created a deck of cards called the Motley Crew TBR game, and each of these cards represents a character from a series of books that I love. Now, within this deck, there are a bunch of sets of characters from each of those books or series. As an example, here are the 5 Heroes set of character cards from Rob J. Hayes' Never Die. By collecting all 6 of these cards, I can then earn 1 to 2 purchased books. This game allows me to not only have fun while I'm picking my TBR, but also gives me a fun set of guidelines to keep my book buying habits in check. At the beginning of the round, I will draw a number of cards equivalent to however many books I feel like reading in that month, well, whether that is 3 to 5 to 8, however many I decide, and each of those cards has an effect that tells me what to look for as I'm perusing my shelves for the TBR. Some of these cards have secondary effects and interact with other cards in the deck, as you might see later on as we get going. One other aspect of this game is that we have TBR vessels, so named by our audience member Sisasuku in our last TBR game video. Thank you for the recommendation. We just weren't feeling the whole TBR jars title, and TBR vessels honestly is chef's kiss much better. So the TBR vessels are full of different categories of books. These are my Kindle reads. I have a kitchen sink vessel, which has all of my non-science fiction fantasy reads in it. I have a science fiction fantasy, priority reads, friend recommendations, etc. Many of the cards that we will be using in the deck today do ask me to draw a read from one of the TBR vessels. The only other part of this game that you need to know about is the location cards. I will draw one of these location cards at the beginning of each TBR game, and that will give me a big picture effect over the entire TBR. So let's do a quick recap of the June TBR game and remind ourselves what we drew back then. I'm not going to tell you what I've earned so far during the month. I will include that in my monthly wrap-up, but we drew as a location card the DAO. The effect for this card is, at the end of the round, choose one TBR read and replace it with a book drawn from any jar. Then I drew 5 character cards, and I'm only holding up 4 because one of them was negated by another's card effect. First, I drew Darrow from the Rising collection, and his effect is to read a book with a hero or heroine on the cover. The second card I drew was from my Motley Crew of Disruptors cards, and that was Smaug, whose effect is to draw 2 SFF reads. The third card was Gano's Paran from the Bridge Burners collection, whose effect was to draw a priority read, and he also allowed me to negate the effect of another disruptor card that I had drawn during that round. The fourth and final card that was in play from last month was Sindri from my own Bruhai collection. Her effect was to read a book with a weapon in the title or blood on the cover. If you're super confused about how this works at this point, don't worry about it. It'll probably become clear as we play. And also, like I said, you can go down in the description box below and click the link to the first video that I made about this TBR game, which explains the rules in detail. Alright guys, so the first thing that we are going to do for this round is we are going to draw our location card, which will have a big picture effect on the TBR we draw as a whole. And as I said in the first TBR game video, all of the backs are a little bit different because my printer was running out of ink when I got to these. So I am going to not look at all. You guys can see them, I cannot. And we're gonna go with this one right here. And we have Black Veil, which is a location from my Legends of the Bruhai series. The effect is Training Yard. At the end of the round, one of your TBR reads must feature a young protagonist. I feel like that's going to be pretty easy, honestly, because I read a lot of books featuring young protagonists, and watch this be like the first month that I look through my TBR and I'm like, well, actually, I wasn't planning on reading any books with a young protagonist, but it's fine. Okay, so we have our location, so I'm going to put that here. Actually, I'm going to put it up here so we don't lose it. So guys, this month I'm going to be drawing probably 5 cards again like I did last month. I am still working on my writing project, and that takes a lot of my normal reading time, which is completely fine. It just means that I'm going to be drawing probably a few less cards while I also work on that writing project. Keep up on my website if you want to know what I'm working on and how it's going as I drop cards all over my lap. And 5 cards felt like a challenge last month, but it also didn't feel completely overwhelming. So I think that was a good sweet spot for where I'm at right now. And we are just not having this sideways shuffling thing is just, hang on, give me a second. There we go. Okay, so now that all of the cards are shuffled, I am going to start drawing. It's always a little nerve-wracking, and like I'm hesitant to rip the Band-Aid off and draw that first card because I like the spontaneity of this game a lot. It's also a little tiny bit anxiety-inducing. Not really anxiety, it's more of a thrill, if that makes sense. It's not a bad thing, it's not a negative feeling, it's just a like nervous excitement. That's what I was looking for, nervous excitement. Okay, so our first card is going to be Locke Lamora from my Gentleman Bastards collection. Locke Lamora's ability is to copy an ability from any other character card. This is going to be super useful, so obviously I'm not going to be drawing anything from him yet, but as soon as I draw the rest of my cards, I will be able to copy one of their abilities, whichever one I choose, and then I will read whatever book that ends up being. Drawing our second card, and I know I don't need to shuffle in between drawing, you guys, but I want to because I like shuffling. So there. All right, second card is Thomas Senlin from my Misfits collection, which has the effect that Ben chooses a book from my TBR, or can draw from a jar or choose from my shelves. So my husband is currently outside weeding a flower bed, so I'm going to wait and ask him to do this when he comes in, and I will insert a little clip of him choosing the video here. All right, guys, so here's the insert of Ben picking a book for me from my shelves. I'm very nervous about this because I have a couple predictions, and I'm curious to see if I'm right.
I think you're right, but I really want to know what your other guesses were.
All right, so Ben, out of everything on my shelves that I have not read,
yep.
What am I reading?
I got you Children of Time
by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Look at how thick that book is. This is one of your guesses?
This is one of my guesses, yes. And I was really hoping it was going to be the other one.
It's really long, but it reads really easy. Mm-hmm. And it's also long.
Yes. I know. So Ben read this last month, or this month. Very recently, in either case.
I finished it early June, maybe.
And really enjoyed this. I have read Tchaikovsky before and have really enjoyed his work. I'm actually really excited about this because I have heard from you and a lot of other people, though, that he is very good at non-human characters.
Oh, very, very good.
And that's something that I really like a lot in sci-fi or fantasy of any kind. So yeah. Thank you for picking a read for me. I love you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Children of Time is my Thomas Senlin pick for the month of July. All right, so I don't know what Ben picked for me yet, but I will include it in the wrap-up of this video. So we're going to put that down on the table. That's pick number 2. All right, this has been pretty tame so far. I don't know, you guys. Like, we have 1 pick, 2 cards. I haven't gotten to pick a book yet. So our next card number 3, is going to be Detritus from my City Watch collection. He is my favorite character from the City Watch, so this makes me really excited. In fact, if drawn during a spring or summer month, read a book less than 200 pages. If drawn during an autumn or winter month, read a book over 500 pages. Okay, so detritus, so this is July, so that's a summer month. So we're gonna need a book that's less than 200 pages long, which I'm not mad about because I may have some very chunky reads outside of his pick this month. So I think we're gonna have a look at the shelves and see what we can come up with. All right, guys, so I just went through my shelves and I found 3 options that I'm trying to decide which one of them I'm gonna pick. The first one is a manga, and that is Island in a Puddle by Kei Sanbei. I don't know that much about this manga other than it's an older brother trying to protect his little sister in kind of a darker undercity kind of flavor story, I think. So this one's been on my radar for quite a while and I really want to get to it. The next one is The Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This one is not connected in any way to any of her Greenbone Saga work, but there are giant birds and a female protagonist who is like a warrior, so I'm here for all of that. That was a horrible explanation of this book. I haven't read it yet. So that is my second option, and then my third option is actually Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. This was recommended to me ages ago by Steven Erikson when I had asked him for some recommendations, and I read the other ones that he recommended to me, but I didn't have time to get to Cannery Row, and I've been really, really intrigued by this book ever since Erikson recommended it to me. And it's not that long, and I feel like it would be a good kind of mental switch up from a lot of the other books that I might be reading this month. So what a diverse group of books, honestly. Like, I don't know how to pick. This is such an apples and oranges thing. I don't know which one to pick. I think I'm actually gonna leave all 3 of these as options because I didn't have to draw one from one of the TBR vessels, so it's not like a locked in thing. And it's really gonna depend on my mood when I get to whichever one of these reads I decide to go with, which one I would want to read. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to leave this tiny little stack all under Detritus's card, and when I'm ready, whenever it is in the month of July, to pick one of them, I'll go with whichever one my mood dictates, and then you guys can come back to my wrap up to see which one I picked. All right, moving on to our 4th pick of the game, and I didn't see that, but we're gonna keep going anyways. All right, we have the Death card. Choose one character card in play, return it and the Death card to the deck, draw 2 new character cards. I already picked Detritus's books, and I'm actually kind of excited about those. But I also want Ben to be able to choose a book for me this month. That does make me a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Because Death goes into effect right away, and I don't know what that 5th card is gonna be until after I do Death's effect. So I think we're gonna pick Loch Lamora, which allows me to copy the ability of any other character card, because I wanna leave a gift for future me in one of these TBR games. I don't know which one it's gonna be, but I feel like I'm gonna really appreciate that at some point, and I don't feel like this month's TBR is gonna be too difficult. So I am putting Loch Lamora and the Death card back in the deck, and we are going to draw 2 new character cards. And this is before we get to our 5th official draw. I can see where this might be confusing from an audience standpoint. Just bear with me. I got you. All right. So we're going to draw, okay, Krupp from the Misfits collection. Read a book with more than 5 words in the title. If none can be found, draw 2 kitchen sink reads. Okay. Let me look at my shelves. All right, guys, that was actually a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be because I have been kind of eyeing this book as an option for Krupp in the past as a card draw, and that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. This is a young adult Asian-inspired fantasy, and I typically am a little nervous about books like this. Just with a lot of the modern publishing trends that I tend to steer away from a little bit more. However, I have heard a lot of really positive things about this one in particular. And it's short, and it has a title with longer than 5 words. And the cover is absolutely beautiful. That is one thing that I will say about a lot of these types of books that are coming out this last few years, is that the covers are really, really stunning. So kudos to all of the artists. So Krupp's pick is going to be The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. All right, now we need to draw our other replacement for the death card. So this will technically be draw 4 out of 5. And then we will draw our final card after that. So number 4 is going to be Angua from the City Watch collection, which is exciting because that means that we've drawn 2 City Watch characters, which gets me further to completing part of the collection for them and closer to earning some rewards. So Angua's effect is to draw from 2 different jars, choose one book, and return the other. All right, one of those reads is going to be from my priority reads vessel, because I am trying to get through my priority reads here in 2025, and as you can see, I still have quite a few of them to get through, but this is the one, you guys. This is... I'm so nervous. I don't know what this is. Oh boy, okay, The Gates of the Alamo by Steve Harrigan. So here is The Gates of the Alamo by Stephen Harrigan. This, I am really excited to read this. I wasn't expecting to read it in July, but honestly, a cool historical fiction novel about Alamo-era Texas. I'm not necessarily mad about that option, so we're gonna keep that out and figure out what our second draw is gonna be. All right, guys, I think the other jar that we're gonna draw from is my review copies jar, and we're gonna see what we have. Ooh, these are both so good. Last Stand of the Stone Fist by Michael R. Miller. You know, I was actually thinking that I wanted to read this book this month, so now I'm kind of, I don't know what to do, you guys. Because I want to read both these books. That's my problem, is I have to pick one and return the other. And I want to read both of these books. And they're so different. Okay, guys, so I think I have picked. I'm going to read The Last Stand of the Stone Fist by Michael R. Miller. I do really want to read Gates of the Alamo still, but I feel like because I was already thinking about this one even last month about how I wanted to read it in July, I feel like this is the one I have to go with. So, thanks to Angua, I will be reading The Last Stand of the Stone Fist by Michael R. Miller and adding that to my TBR for July. Alright guys, so we are now on our 5th and final card draw for this game. I am actually feeling pretty good about it. We've had some twists and turns, but I'm feeling pretty solid about my decision to put Locke back in the deck because I don't know whose ability I would have copied or needed to copy, so I feel like I'm definitely leaving a gift for my future self because I have a hunch she's going to need him a lot more than I do. So our 5th and final card is going to be... Oh, okay. So the Jackal's effect is to read a book with a focus on political intrigue, and a secondary effect is at the end of the round, one TBR read must be replaced with a drawn Kindle read. Okay. Okay guys, so I think I have the perfect answer to this effect, and I'm actually excited about it because this is a book that I wanted to finish in July anyway, so that worked out. That is The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This is the 4th and final book in the Books of Babel series, and I've been reading that since late last year, and I really wanted to finish it here in July, so I think we are going to choose Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. So as it currently stands, this is the TBR that we have for July so far. It looks a little scarier than it actually is because 3 of these books on the top are for the Sergeant Detritus card, and that one was to read a book less than 200 pages. And I chose 3 to choose between and haven't quite decided yet, and we'll get to that momentarily because I think I have an answer to help us out with that. The next one was Krupp, which is to read a book with more than 5 words in the title, and we have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea for that one. Then we had Angwa's draw from 2 different jars, choose one book and return the other, and we drew The Last Stand of the Stone Fist, which was what I chose. And then we have the Jackal, who's gonna mess up our plans a little bit in a minute here, but he was to read a book with political intrigue, which The Fall of Babel fits into that. There is a lot of political intrigue throughout this series. So that is our Jackal card pick. And last but not least is the book that Ben picked for me for our Thomas Senlin card, and that is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I am really excited to get back into Tchaikovsky's work again, and I've been reading a lot of space opera this year, so it'll fit right in with a lot of the other stuff I've been reading recently, and it'll be fun to kind of have the comparisons between all of the different space opera-esque books that I've been reading. And finally, for our location card, we needed to have a book on the TBR which features a young protagonist. And we have one. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea features a girl as a protagonist. So that fits for our location card, so we've made that happy. But as a disruptor, the Jackal is here to throw a wrench in the plans. So secondary effect, at the end of the round, one TBR read must be replaced with a drawn Kindle read. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, the disruptors are disruptors for a reason, right? They throw a wrench in the plans. I'm not feeling Kindle reads right now, so it's really gonna depend on what book I draw if I'm gonna be able to complete this card or not. I have a lot of Kindle reads, you guys. So, the book that we are going to sacrifice to the Jackal is actually my picks from Detritus, which I feel really bad about. However, I do think that me not being able to choose right at this moment was a good reason for me to pick this one. So whatever I draw as the Kindle read will end up being the fulfillment of Detritus's effect, because the Jackal kind of hijacks his effect. So I'm going to put these back on the shelf. That's not to say I still wouldn't read one of these this month, or maybe even a couple if I need a break, because I last month did read other books that weren't on the TBR specifically from the TBR game. So I always give myself a lot of flexibility. I can read anything I want at any time. It's just how many cards I want to earn toward future book purchases. So I'm going to actually leave these with my stack for now, but we need to draw a Kindle read. All right, so we are going to dip into the Kindle TBR vessel and see what we get. I'm so nervous. Yay! Guard in the Garden. Guys, okay, you can't see that. That is super blurry. I apologize. There we go. Guard in the Garden makes me so excited because I have the physical version of that. So if I'm really struggling with the Kindle, I can always grab my physical paperback copy, and that was a book that I was actually really hoping to fit in somewhere in my July TBR, and I was a little sad that I wasn't going to be able to do it. Yes, thank you. That was a very supportive TBR vessel right there, and I thank you for that. That's amazing. I'm so excited about this. Guard in the Garden. It's happening. I'm so excited. So let me grab my physical copy so I can show you. So this is Guard in the Garden, and even though this isn't the Kindle version, I am going to start reading it on my Kindle in the spirit of the prompt, but if I have to, I'm going to switch over to physical paperback and still count it toward the prompt because it was drawn as a Kindle read. So I am going to, like I said, we'll start on a Kindle, we'll see how it goes. But Guard in the Garden is a wholesome, cozy fantasy about a veteran, disabled dwarf who is trying to fit back into normal life and figure out how to kind of enjoy life again. And I have heard nothing but amazing reviews for this book. I am so excited to read this. I'm so thrilled. The Jackal tried to get us and he failed miserably because I am very excited to get to Guard in the Garden. by Zach Diamante. All right, guys, we have our completed July TBR. We have The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. We have Guard in the Garden by Z.S. Diamante. We have Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. And The Last Stand of the Stone Fist by Michael R. Miller. Honestly, I'm pretty excited about this TBR. I am really loving the spontaneity of this game and how everything on my shelves is something that I'm really excited to read. And the spontaneity aspect of it and the randomness of it really kind of adds an extra thrill to these TBR picks. So far, I'm here for it. I'm really liking this method of choosing my books for the next month. And again, I'm able to choose however many or however few I want. I'm able to, if I don't want to read a book, I just don't. I don't get the card, but it's not like a penalty. I just throw it back in the deck and we try again later. So I hope that you guys are also enjoying the TBR game and the experience of going through and reading my shelves with me. That was one of the big goals this year, was to fall in love with reading my shelves again, and I feel like I am definitely on a good trajectory with that. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your TBR for July looks like, if you have one. If you're planning on mood reading your way through July, go get them. I hope you're having a great week. I hope that you are reading some 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.